I'm Al McFarlane. Welcome to the Conversation with Al McFarlane. Sorry for the delay. I'm not sure we're streaming right now. We've got some technical issues with our platform, StreamYard, but we will find out if you are catching the program here on KFAI or if you're catching it on the social media platforms. Send me a note. Let me know that you're hearing us because I am honestly not sure that we're broadcasting or live streaming at this moment. I've got several wonderful people lined up to join the program who are in the studio. Let me see if I can bring them in right now. I know that Deborah Watts is here. I believe that Corey Day is here and Jonathan Palmer. All of them are here in studio again, but we've got some kind of technical issues with our StreamYard connection, and we may or may not be able to bring them in, but I will find out in just a second. Uh, and then if, let's see, how do I bring other people in? I'm gonna do the work in progress here. Presets. And, okay. So if you are able to drop me a note, let me know in the comment section. And in the meantime, I'm going to keep working on finding out whether we're live or not. I don't believe we're live, but we're live to StreamYard, but I'm not sure if we're going out live to the radio station. And if my producer is available, can you troubleshoot? Because I do have guests that are standing by. We'd love to get them on and have this conversation today. But, and again, I know the station is playing music until we get this technology figured out here. But let me just keep checking the comments. Show comments on stage. Can't post comments. There's Michelle. Hi, Michelle. How are you? Thank you for tuning in. I'm not sure that we're able we're streaming live yet. I don't know that we are on KFAI, but I know that we're streaming across some of the social media platforms from StreamYard. And I am just not sure what our technology is doing right now. Check this one, teleprompters, nope. And I'm trying to operate from a telephone. Normally, I operate from a desktop. The desktop is unavailable right now. And I was trying to do the live streaming from my iPod, but that's very slow and choppy, so that was not the right solution. iPad's what I had. Okay, Jonathan, here we go. At the stage, there we go. And Deborah at the stage. I just figured out how to do it. Corey at the stage. Hey guys, how are you?
Great.
Hello,
Great
can you hear me?
me?
We can hear you, but I can't hear. Can you hear me?
I hear you perfectly, and I hear you, Corey. Now, what I don't know is whether we have the station on board or not. Let me add the station to the program as well. Let's see if they come in.
Miguel says we are live on KFAI.
We are live right now. Thank you, Miguel. Well, great. Thank you, KFAI listeners, for your patience and your support. I'm Al McFarlane. This is The Conversation with Al McFarlane. It'll be an abbreviated version because we've had some technical difficulties with our streaming service, StreamYard. But nonetheless, we're here and glad to be here. I had a chance to run into Deborah last week, Deborah Watts, and she reminded me that she's got some important work ahead that the entire world should be aware of and supportive of, and that is work supporting the memory and the life of Emmett Till. Deborah, my friend, so good to see you. Tell me what's going on, what's coming up, what should people know about here and around the country? Deborah, did you hear that? Yeah, Jonathan, did you hear me?
I hear you. Deborah, did you hear Al?
And Deborah is muted now,
I
apparently.
think
She
she's
wasn't
muted.
before. Deborah, are you there?
We can't hear her, and I don't think she can hear us.
Okay. Let's come back to her. Maybe send a text to her. Can you text her, Jonathan, to let her know to come
I
out
don't
and in
think.
again? She can log out and log back in. Corey Day is here. Corey, how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well, sir. I'm doing well.
Good. I wanted to take just a few minutes, and thank you for jumping on, just to give people an update of the political season that we're in. There have been some important primaries around the country, and people are lining up here. And I wanted to just spend 5 or 10 minutes giving an update. What's the political lay of the land at the moment? What should we be organizing for and towards as we approach the primaries coming up in about a month or so?
Well, like you just mentioned, we are in the middle of primary season, and we have a hot contested Senate race on the DFL side between Angie Craig and Peggy Flanagan. We have our governor, we have Amy Klobuchar, who's kept somewhat of, I would say, uncontested primary in front of her. And then we don't have too many legislative primaries on the DFL or the GOP side, to be completely honest with you. I think a lot of the energy right now is going to be on that Senate race. And when you come statewide, when you look at in Hennepin in Minneapolis, we do have the Hennepin County Attorney. That's going to be a pretty hot primary. There's at least 6 candidates in that race at this point. And then our Sheriff DeWitt was not endorsed by the DFL, and she's being challenged from an outside challenger herself. So she will, I believe if it's only 2 of them, they both get through the primary automatically, and they'll just go into the general. So we have a few races that are going on in Hennepin, and we have that statewide race with Angie and Peggy. And what you're seeing right now, and this is not just going on with this race, but we're seeing it nationally, is that there's this interesting kind of come to Jesus moment for the Democratic Party going on right now. And we're seeing it in New York. We're seeing it in other states where the progressive wing of the party and kind of this new socialist per se, and that's what they call themselves, wing of the party. It's kind of figuring itself out right now. We're in this strange position where you have, even in this with this Peggy versus Angie race, but you have kind of the centrist versus the kind of the further left progressive. And so
meaning Peggy being the centrist and Angie being
more
progressive.
Angie's she's a centrist from a centrist district. And Peggy is, a lieutenant governor, but she's always been unabashedly progressive. And so we're kind of seeing the heart and soul of the Democratic Party right now. We're kind of seeing which direction we're going to be going and moving forward. And, right now in the season we're in, with kind of everyone just trying to figure out how can we best push back on what this terrible president is doing to our country. I think what we're seeing is at least the DFL party here, the Democratic Party nationally, is figuring out who's the best steward of taking it to Donald Trump come next year. Is it going to be kind of the centrist, moderate wing of the party, or is it going to be the folks who are just, pin our hair back and go after him, which we're seeing more on the progressive and left side of the party?
What do you think it's going to be?
You know what? It's hard to tell. I think in Minnesota, I think this race between Craig and Flanagan, it's coming fast. It's still a little early. I kind of need to get into July before I can really get an assessment. It's going to be close. A lot of money is going to be spent on both sides of both campaigns. But at this point, it's hard to really kind of give a where I think the ball is going to land. But Peggy does have the advantage with the DFL endorsement. So she's going to have those activists on the street fighting for her. But I wish I had.
So Deborah, you got to turn your mute. Deborah's got to be muted. Deborah's changing technology there. So yeah, mute, and then get rid of one of them, Deborah, and then we'll come back on. Okay. Go ahead, Corey.
Yeah, I wish I had a crystal ball. It's hard to tell where the party's going to land right now. I just think, like I said, it's really a soul-searching moment where, we're going to see which part of the party actually gets energized to show up to vote. And, there's a part of me that thinks maybe, it's going to be the season of kind of the more leftist kind of, I want to say left of left side of our party who's going to
Hmm.
catch the mantle right now and be the ones who are going to be kind of the stewards come next year. Hopefully, when we have the House and most likely a trifecta here in Minnesota with the governors in both Senate and House next year.
Jonathan, any assessment from the national? You were at a national convention, I think, a reunion, I think, at Morehouse recently, right? And I asked you then to get a feel for what the people from Morehouse are thinking about the national environment, political environment. And you obviously have always been involved locally here. What's your assessment of the mood of the community at the moment?
I would say that the community is looking towards activism and looking towards being progressive. Senator Raphael Warnock's in our class, and so was part of our Morehouse family. And we've been very much looking at what's happening both on the national stage and in some of the local races. And you're seeing a lot of energy in the local races. I think you're seeing in some places a push to play it safe in some regards. But when I talk more to grassroots people, they're on the ground, I think they want to see some change and they want to see energetic candidates who are going to get the job done. We have, as Corey pointed out, there's horrible stuff coming out of DC. And the same old isn't going to work anymore. So we've got to have people who are energized, people who want to try something a little bit different. You look at New York with Mayor Zohran Mamdani. There's a lot of energy around him, and he did a good election win, and he's got energy as he's moving forward. So I think that you're going to see more and more people moving towards anybody who's progressive and anybody who is going to go ahead and not take the status quo. They're going to look at what's happening and what can be done to make a difference and change things.
Let me see if I can get Deborah back in. Deborah Watts, how's your audio now? So you probably muted, so unmute. Try now. So I think you had two devices operating and that was creating the feedback. So if you can just use one of the devices, you have to turn the other one completely off.
Okay, it's just not working.
Okay.
I'll try to do it like this. Is this better?
Yeah, that's better.
I'm sorry.
What are you doing? What's happening? That's not working.
I actually have two devices. I either need to get off of one.
Yeah.
But this is the device on my iPad is not working. So I'm so sorry for the technical difficulty. So I tried on my phone.
It must be iPad day because it happened to me as well.
Yes.
So if you can get rid of the other one, I think we'll be okay.
Okay, let me come back in.
Okay, sure.
Okay.
And Jonathan, I wanted to have Deborah sort of put into context when she comes back this question of celebrating Emmett Till and remembering Emmett Till. Mm-hmm. And I think that memory is important because we have just come off of remembering George Floyd, and we've just come off of Juneteenth. And the Juneteenth discussion, I think, is phenomenal in that it's allowing us to sort of stand in the examination of our condition, the history of it, having been victims of the international global slave trade, victims of that, and the progress we made struggling for our freedom, supporting and causing the Union to prevail in the Civil War. It was our work, our soldiers, who I think made the push to give the victory to the North over the secessionists of the South. And then we've gone through these eras of massive advancement just after slavery, then Reconstruction, and then the backlash. And
Mhm.
in it all, we always hear our Southern white friends sort of act as though the war is not over, and there's a language they use. I can't think of it. There's a phrase they use. I can't think of it right now. But the suggestion is that the strategy for their reemergence, well, maybe it's MAGA. Maybe that's what it is. I'm not sure. That's probably as good a strategy as any. But what do you guys think in terms of the context? And I'm interested, Corey, you talked about progressive, and Jonathan is sort of agreeing that the progressive side may prevail. Is that a good thing? What's the danger? And does that polarize the country in a way that leaves people in the middle uh, more undecided, more reluctant, and therefore, uh, who pays that cost?
Um, I think, I come from kind of the school where the extremes of either party leading is never a good thing because there's always a lot more people in the middle than there are to the right, to the left.
Mhm.
So, my hope is that as long as we just get good common sense folks elected who actually give a dang about where things are headed in this country and actually care about the people of this country and cares about the communities that we obviously are very passionate about, is kind of where my head is. I don't want to judge any movement or act. I'm going to get into Jonathan's point, which he's very right. There is an activist swell that's going on right now, and you're seeing it, and you're going to see it probably in New York tonight in the primaries. And so I think the last thing you want to do is, calm that swell or take it down. You want to feed it, right? You want to make sure that we're giving it life. And so I'm all for the folks who are fired up, and who are ready to show up and vote and who are ready to march, having their moment. If that's the time we're in, if that's the season we're in, then God bless it.
Deborah was saying to Corey and Jonathan that the context is important. And I review, and we have to continually keep in mind our journey here. And one of the pivotal moments, though, in consciousness, awareness, and activism was the rallying of the country around the death of your cousin, I believe, Emmett Till.
Yes.
Can you walk us through what happened? Just remind people that might not know. They weren't born then. And if we don't keep telling the story, it gets lost.
Yes, yes. Well, um, it's kind of hard for me sometimes to tell the story and recover, but I'll just say, in 1955, a beautiful young boy traveled from Chicago to Mississippi to visit relatives, which is something that a lot of our families did who migrated from the South to the North and East and West. And his name was Emmett Till, my cousin. Our great grandfathers were brothers. And while he was there, he whistled at Carolyn Bryant Donham, who was a store owner. And after spending a couple more days there without fear of anything, but there was fear in the hearts and minds of the relatives that were with him, our cousins that were with him. But a few days later, he was actually kidnapped out of the home by several people, being identified by what we think is Carolyn Bryant Donham. Kidnapped, was in the bed. It was like 2:30 in the morning. He was taken some 30 or so miles around the Delta area in Mississippi. He was beaten, he was shot, and eventually there was a 75-pound cotton gin fan that was tied around his neck, and he was thrown into the Tallahatchie River. One of the important things I think too about this, his death and his lynching, is that he actually had a trial. They actually arrested two men after his body emerged and he was identified. They actually arrested two men, and there was a trial. The unfortunate thing is that trial had an all-white jury because there were about 30,000 people in the community. 19,000 were Black. None of them were registered to vote because they couldn't. And so there were many lives that have been sacrificed for the right to vote. But back in 1955, there was no justice, no sanctuary for an African American person. And so from that moment forward, after the acquittal of the two murderers, and there were more, but after the acquittal of the murders, they confessed in Look magazine that they killed him because he set an example, was an example that they wanted to put in the hearts and minds of African Americans and others if they even thought about speaking to or dating a white woman. And so this became the Emmett Till moment, the Emmett Till generation, who rose up, his mother actually started the first viral moment and movement in this country, using the media, using the administration, writing letters to President Eisenhower, asking for the help and support of NAACP and other leaders. Also, Congressman Diggs was involved. So there was representation there and an outcry there, but eventually no justice. So she fought 47 years to try to get justice for Emmett. But the important thing, what you're talking about today, is the representation, the ability to vote. So if you fast forward to the civil rights era and the civil rights movement, Rosa Parks sat so we could stand, but she thought about Emmett Till. Martin Luther King rose to the occasion because of Emmett's murder. The civil rights movement, along with the bus boycott, was all an inspiration from Emmett's murder and the acquittal of those murderers. And the March on Washington was actually on the date that Emmett was murdered, August 28th. So his anniversary is tied to a lot of different historical pieces and historical points in our history, both past, present, and future as well, because we're not going to allow the country to forget Emmett's relevance, both before, in the past, present, and future, because it's important to tie those things, those moments in history, the lack of opportunity that we had, the struggles that we had to move forward, the voting rights, the Civil Rights Division in the Department of Justice was actually established in 1957, 2 years after Emmett was murdered, because of that murder. So there was a moment when we used our hearts and our minds to move things in this country. And unfortunately, we have to muster up that same kind of, I would say, inspiration, courage to do similar today. We have the right to vote. Many people have died and sacrificed. There are about 136 other examples of families who lost their lives during, I would say, the civil rights movement up to 1979. They're all listed on the Department of Justice site, and it's part of the Unsolved Civil Rights Crimes Act in Emmett Till's name. So there are other unknown individuals and families out there like ours who had their lives stolen or relatives' lives stolen, and many of them was because of the right to vote or pushing forward something that I think we benefit from today.
You've got a major celebration coming up.
Yes.
Tell us about that and invite people to be aware and support.
Thank you. Well, on August 28th this year, we will be back in Mississippi. It's the 71st anniversary or anniversary of Emmett's murder. We have a 3-day, I'd say, commemoration. We tend to not say celebration because of the horrific nature, but also we do think about how, the power of history, and turning that tragedy into triumph today, and in celebrating both the voting rights, in inspiring those in Mississippi who are having a turn, I'd say an opportunity where things may change drastically there for their representation. We want to make sure we inspire people there to continue to vote. We will have a candlelight vigil for Emmett at Jackson State University on the anniversary of his murder. We'll be showing the Till movie and other documentaries. We have some surprise announcements that we're going to be making as well. We will be taking that journey from Jackson, Mississippi to the Delta area. We on buses. We'll be going to the barn. We'll be going to the store where Emmett was accused of accosting Carolyn Bryant, but that's where he whistled. We'll be
Is
going
the store
to,
still open? Is it still open?
The store is actually in shambles right now.
Mm-hmm.
There's a marker there. There's historical markers that identify many of these locations.
But the business is not operating still.
Oh, no.
Okay.
Actually, the townspeople and most of the African Americans who were sharecroppers stopped shopping there. So in terms of boycott, that was done in 1955 after those murders. After that. And then we, go on the tour. We go to the barn. Right now, the Department of Justice, the National Park Service has designated 3 sites that are part of the National Monument at Emmett and his mother's name. One's in Chicago, which is the church where the funeral was held. He had an open casket funeral. I think I forgot to mention that. But then the other location is the courthouse where Emmett's murderers were acquitted. That's now part of a national monument. And the riverside, there's a landing there that is now part of a national monument where Emmett's body was retrieved and where he was dumped in the Black Bayou, but it floated down to where Gray Ball Landing is now part of a national monument. So we will be visiting there. Mount Bayou, which is the all-Black town where Emmett's mother had to find sanctuary and safety and security in 1955, but that's still there. That town is still there, still thriving. And then we'll be going to other sites. Security is a concern of ours as well, given this environment, but we're going to be prepared for that also. But we invite everyone to join us. There are people coming from all over the country, all over the world, actually, to join us this year. We also are inviting impacted families to join us. So those like Amir Locke's family, Trayvon Martin's family, George Floyd's family, and others are all invited. Those that the civil rights era families as well. Shelton Chappelle with Johnny Mae Chappelle as his mom, who was murdered about 5 years after Emmett, was just shot. He saw his mom's picture. The only picture he saw of her was on a slab in a morgue. He was 4 months old. She was a mother of 10 and was just shot because of, they were just looking for somebody to shoot. Mother of 10. Wallace Jackson Jr. got a 5-cent raise in Mississippi, and he was shot. A bomb was put under his truck. So those families also join us. Medgar Evers' daughter joins us as well. So everyone is invited. Students and others are invited to join us.
That's awesome.
August 28th through the 30th. Thank you for that.
And based in Jackson, starting in Jackson, or we're starting?
Starts in Jackson. We have a couple of events there. The next day, we'll be boarding buses in Jackson and going up to the Delta. It's about a 2-hour ride, but we have buses. This is probably our 10th time doing this tour. And we have people joining us by caravan and others. They're really stretching us this year because the interest is great. The need for our young people to understand our history, to make that connection from the past to the present and the future is timely. It's timely right now.
Do you get over to Sunflower, Mississippi?
We go through the county, Sunflower County. Yeah, we're in Tallahatchie County, Sunflower County, and let's see, Glendora, I believe, is in Tallahatchie County. We're in Greenville, Mississippi as well. So we go where the statue is. I'll tell you, it's a life-changing experience that people need to have, because you hear
Hmm.
about Emmett, you hear about the
Hmm.
horrific nature of his death, but then you need to know what is transpiring since then. One
That's right.
thing to note, though, with Glendora, Mississippi, which is where the cotton gin fan was found, and there's a museum there. There's several museum stops that we'll make as well. But that town looks like it did in 1955,
Mm.
which is interesting.
Hmm.
So, from an economy perspective, Emmett has become an economic engine. Can you imagine?
Mm. People are
In
showing up.
Mississippi.
Yeah. Well, yeah, of course.
Well, but as a family, we're like going, well, okay, well, how do we deal with that? So that's why we make sure people understand the
Hmm.
nature in which
Hmm.
his murder occurred, the environment that was happening then, the culture that was
Yeah.
happening then, and where we are today. And just not much further have we come, but we have come a little bit of ways from there. But it just means that we need to continue to still fight, to continue to use our voices,
Hmm.
stand up, vote, make sure we have the right kind of representation to move things forward in this country.
Let me ask Jonathan and Corey. Jonathan, I think too often our white friends will look at stories like this one for George Floyd or Emmett Till and consider that a one of. Our experience is that it's not. We know that this is part of a process and a practice that has denigrated and devalued Black life from the very beginning. The value placed was the commercial, the commodification of our lives for the gain of the white economy early on. So, but my thinking is that all of us have stories. So, just throw this out to you in your own family and memory and community. How does this story relate, and how do things that you know and maybe have experienced or read uh, align with the urgency of this memory?
Well, I think that the importance of Emmett cannot be underscored enough. It is an inflection point in history, and there's two issues that I see. Is one, uh, with a lot of our white friends and broader American community, there's this misconception that Black history began with slavery. Sometime later, Martin Luther King was born. Then Barack Obama became president, and that's really all that happened. And you have moments like this, like Emmett, that are inflection points. One of the most powerful things from that was the fact that his mother left the casket open because she wanted people to see what this was and not be able to turn away from it. And it is very impactful when you go to the National Museum of African American History and Culture, and you can see that's the one place in the museum they don't allow photographs, and you go in and you can see what it looked like. The other piece to this is we teach slavery, Jim Crow, racism as the history of Black people instead of as the history of white people.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
that is one of the things that allows people to move past this as not really something that they pay attention to. But we've got to really hold people not just accountable, but hold them towards looking at history and how it is repeating itself, how it has continued on and gone through to this day. And there has to be a way of helping people to change. In my own family, my dad was a white Southern Baptist from Columbus, Mississippi, who married a Black Catholic woman from Chicago, Illinois in 1966, a year before Loving versus Virginia. And when my grandfather came up from Mississippi to stop the wedding, we joke we don't know if it was the race or the religion that was the bigger issue at that point. But what you saw in my own family over time was my grandparents getting closer to my mom. And by the time my grandmother passed, she was closer to my mom than she was to any of her own kids. It's
Hmm.
that connection that people build when they are spending time together, when they have a chance to talk with each other, when they have a chance to engage, that's what opens people's eyes to not the stereotypes that they were taught in school, not the things that they heard from their parents or on Fox News or anything like that, but the actual interconnections that they have and the real experiences is what makes a difference. And my mom would tell me stories about what she saw during this time and about, her activism, being engaged, the marches. And you see how things seem to have changed over time until where we are right now is such a throwback.
Mm-hmm.
We are seeing the same kind of racism, but it's more blatant and it is more empowered from the national stage. And I just think about our elders in the community who lived through this, who organized and marched for this, and thought we had moved so far past this to now see the same things happening where we go ahead and regress to a point that everything is being targeted towards Black and brown people. There's negating some of the advancements. There's the attempts to try to remove the Smithsonian and especially the African American Museum. It's very frustrating right now to be a person of color, especially I think a Black person. And I just did a stream about the whole comment that was made about our First Lady and the fact that Black women have been at the forefront of every battle and fight that we have had. Mm-hmm. And always this criticism of calling them men because they are strong, because they are capable, because they move. And my point is, when you call a Black woman a man, you're insulting her not because you're saying she is strong or bold, but because that is pulling her down a level. Black women have been so far above mediocre white men and the people that do so little but gain so much because of the fact that they are born with a lighter skin tone and they don't realize how much that advances. One thing I want to just plug in is that the social media has been great, but also regular media. You are seeing different kinds of things, like in Lovecraft Country, how they interwove the story of Emmett into it. You saw it and didn't realize you were seeing it until afterwards. He was hanging out with the young people down in the basement and dealing with the ghost. And then at the end of one of the episodes, you saw people around the block for the funeral of Emmett. So we see that a lot now in media, in sci-fi, in fantasy. They're integrating the elements of our history as a way to introduce that, because if it hadn't been for Watchmen, most of America wouldn't have known about Tulsa. That was in the opening scene, and the internet blew up because people said, wait a minute, this happened? This actually happened? And so when they start hearing about Emmett, when they hear about Tulsa, when they see George Floyd, they begin to see this is not a one-off. This is not an isolated incident. This is a pattern through our history that has happened, and we've got to change things to do
We're
that.
out of time. Corey, I'll have to bring you back for your comments on this, but thank you for leadership. Deborah, give people either email address or how they can find out and support.
Yes, we are available at info@EmmettTillLegacyFoundation.com, Facebook, Emmett Till Legacy Foundation.com, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, and what's the other one? Threads. So thank you so much for your support.
Thank you all so much. I'm Al McFarlane. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.